Hi there, I'm Rubia Torres, and I'm glad to bring you today a short user interview. Why don't we start with a short self-introduction?
My name is Cosmin Furdui. On the community, you can find me as Cosmin F.
So I'm Francois Swanepoel from South Africa.
Hi, Rubia. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invite. Hello, everyone.
It's nice to see you again, Rubia. After our meeting in Budapest last year, that was nice.
What inspired you to pursue a career in architecture?
So when I was roughly in the 6th grade, at the place where my mom worked at, there was a huge drafting board. And it was then that I learned what an architect is and does. And I learned that you can do geometry and draw for a living. So naturally, I tried to become one.
When I was little, I've always been curious about how things were made. And when I was little, my dad had a hobby to assemble jars with sand and plants. And I asked him about who did that for work, because I love it seeing him doing it. And he said, "Oh, architects do it." That stuck with me.
What inspired me, it took me a long time after school. It took me about 10 years to figure out I wanted to be an architect. That I realized I like drawing and 3D material. So that inspired me.
To get in trouble all the time in school, in my math class or my geography class for not paying attention and sketching plans and buildings in my geography book and so on. At the age of 12, at grade 7, I told my parents I'm going to be an architect. So I was always an architect.
How you got to know Archicad? How did it come in picture for you? And why did you choose this tool to move forward with your career in design?
I actually had the pleasure to be taught in my university. I studied at UFC, the University Federal of Ceará. So in there, all students learn Archicad like in the 3rd period. At first, I was a hater, I gotta admit. When I was learning more and studying more Archicad, I got fun with it. So thank God I got fun with it, because today I'm like really passionate about Archicad.
Well, here in Romania, maybe because of the proximity to Hungary, Archicad is a default software. Of course, when you're in college, you try other softwares, but for me, I started with Archicad 15 or 16, and I really loved user interface. It was very plug and play.
In the year 2000, that I was looking for a 3D design software. And we were working on 2D back then. And they brought out a 3D module. It wasn't intuitive. And it consistently crashed and so on. And then I found Archicad. I can't remember how, but I found Archicad, bought my first license in the year 2000. That was Archicad 6.5. And so that's how my Archicad journey started.
97, then I thought I should jump on the computer wagon and don't miss it. I thought I somehow was late. So I looked at different options and I found Archicad. Number one, or Graphisoft, they were very responsive. And a good friend of mine in the meanwhile, they sold me my first license in 97.
So I wonder, what would you say to someone who is just now starting with Archicad? What would you suggest as a few tips, what to do, what not to do?
Modeling, produce the drawings via a model, because number one, you see all the problems. Of course, it takes a little longer than just do a few drawings, but you see all the problems, and the client, the contractor, and then at the end yourself will be more happy because it's less trouble on site, less costs for the client, and a smoother process for the contractor altogether.
If you are learning at first, I would just advise you to pick a passion project. Let's say you want to design a small house. and then see, okay, how can I tackle this issue? And then it's a learning experience. It's not a design experience. So I think the two should be clearly separated, because at the end you would then master the software and then you can do the design in parallel.
I'll help you understand Archicad and the language Archicad speaks. I'm not going to teach you Archicad. I'm not going to teach you what the buttons do. I'm going to help you understand the anatomy of Archicad. Because Archicad, the raw tools connected, the properties are connected, the classifications are connected, and that makes your outputs connected to your classifications and the elements themselves. So there's this skeleton that's interconnected.
I think it's very easy to use. It's easy to learn. It's easy to do things, to be creative, the workflows.
If you would compare it to other tools that you have encountered in your career, what would you say that is the differentiator of Archicad?
I think the tools like wall, beam, curtain wall, they are very easy to use with different things. So you can use them and the furniture, for example, or do basically anything you want. So I think that's easy to be creative. So you can make anything you like, basically. And for me, in particular, I love design options. It really makes my life easier.
For me, Archicad understands architecture well. If I can put it in one sentence, that's the essence of what makes Archicad just feel right. Just like Archicads need to cover a broad base of disciplines when they design and need to consider all these different aspects of MEP systems, that is part of an architect's pre-design implementation. The structural aspects, the acoustics and the site conditions and all these things. So an architect needs to be an all-rounder and have fundamental knowledge about all these other disciplines, and then just hand over the project to those consultants to do the further final designs and full analysis on all these other aspects, and then bring it back together. And the architect needs to then coordinate and still make sure that everything aligns with that initial vision. In that way, Archicad is very much the same as a tool. Archicad's extensive compatibility with all different file types of all different file compatibility with Archicad to consume and absorb and pull in all kinds of different digital files is one of those things that just makes it a Swiss Army knife for an architect. One tool that can do everything and do it well.
In 2010, when the economy dropped, or 2008, lots of my clients actually told me to go to Revit, and I did a basic class in Revit. At this time, they didn't have visualization properly. The teamwork was terrible. Everybody had to stop working while it uploads. And there were other few features. Oh yeah, they didn't have the trace reference. Oh yeah, and then they had 8, I think 3 or 4 visible 0 points and 5 hidden ones. It's like, okay, I just need 1, yeah? And which Archicad has. So it was a no-brainer just to stay with me. Even my workload was very, very limited. At that time was a very difficult time. Lots of architects lost work or left the profession even. I didn't fool around too much with other applications.
Architecture by definition is a art and a science. So on the science things, I think you can be creative with the solutions that you propose. So creativity may be in that sense of the word, not necessarily in make stuff pretty type of scenario. And in that way, I found detailing to be really, really straightforward with Archicad. Or maybe if you want to make a really intricate detail which you yourself don't really understand, you have to model the things separately and then see, okay, how can I sequence this? And I would spend some time putting the slabs together. Okay, this element comes first, then I will write it down. This comes second. Oh, I cannot fit a drill in here, so I will have to rethink it. So in that way, it really helps you visualize like the sequencing when you have a tricky detail.
Mhm.
Because even if you open up a proper documentation, maybe you do not have the experience to understand it at first. So you would see a detail that is already made, but you wouldn't know how to actually help your team to execute it. So there's a certain amount of creativity in that, and I think Archicad was a good tool to explore.
My next question is about the Graphisoft community. I don't know how much you have been using or being present on the community, but it would be nice if you can share a few words about it. What is your impression? What do you think is the potential of that hub? And if it has had any impact on your activities in Archicad, if you had any difficulties and you went out there and asked the question, someone helped you, or if you were able to help someone.
So I've been browsing the community for a long, long time before. Obviously, I knew the moderators by name and everything, but I didn't really participate actively. And I only decided to participate, I think, 2 years ago. And since then, I tried to have an actual input because I felt that, okay, I really can help others that have really beginner questions. But since joining the community, I met some really, really intelligent people. And usually you see some replies there and you're like, okay, why didn't I think of that? I mean, really creative and elegant solutions to some problems that I didn't know existed actually.
Don't have too much connection to the online Graphisoft community. I got introduced more or less in Archicad on the Beach. I think it was like 2-3 years ago in Mexico, where, you know, one of the resellers organized a training session a week. But I do, you know, during those 20 years, first 20 years here in the US, I did for several years the Archicad user group, so the local community. And that was also, I think, very helpful for a lot of local users. Now they got, I mean, I was consultant, I charged for my time and knowledge, but at that time it was free, you know, for 2 hours once a month. They could ask any question they wanted, and they got immediate response and explanation. So, and yeah, it was nice to, you know, with the local community in person, it was nice to connect and, you know, also realize, oh, I'm not the only ones struggling with a button, finding a button, or not knowing how I do a section with colored background or something, you know?
Mhm.
So it was very, very helpful, I think, to grow the community.
The culture that I experience is supportive and open to sharing knowledge and ideas, and gaining insights. Users engage more. We have, over the years, since the early days of Archicad Talk, we have become more familiar and comfortable in the online environment, obviously also. That also has an influence on how that's changed. But the way that the Graphisoft has changed the platform, the nature of the platform, the culture in the platform, to be supportive and to be open to listen, and your teams asking questions to the community, which we eventually see translate into the tools. And we can see by the questions intended to learn from us. So that's all supporting the bright future that I see for the Archicad community platform as a means of engaging with users and supporting the users from your point of view. And I'm kind of standing next to you when I say that, because from my reseller point of view, I still have the user's interest at heart. And it's encouraging to see how you guys are growing that, and bringing more initiatives to the community site. So I would say without a doubt, it's a no-brainer. If I was to say to a new Archicad user, are you on there yet? Why are you not on there yet? Just do it. You'll thank us later.
If you have something to ask, you can just ask them and someone will give you an answer. So it's a very nice thing that Graphisoft has. I really appreciate the community. I learn a lot in the community. I like to answer a lot as well. I like to be part of it. And I also, I always learn when people have, sometimes they have trick questions and hard questions. And I really like to go into it, and I search in the international one, because I often check the Brazilian one. And I receive emails every day. I apply to everything. So every day I receive some emails of updates. And when I have the chance, I like to check every morning and see if I can help someone. So I've learned a lot, because when they are trick questions or hard questions, I take some time to try to resolve with what's going on. And sometimes I learn, and sometimes I don't know the answer, so I don't respond. But I see support is helping as well. I'm like, oh, okay, so I learned something every day.
What is a question that you'd like to ask to our next guest?
In light of the latest challenge in the community, if they could have any object from the standard library, what would it be and why?
I think I would have the coffee machine, the big
Uh-huh.
I really enjoy drinking coffee, so maybe that. What would you say to convince someone that's losing hope in Archicad and getting back to the softwares?
Every tool is as good as the user's application of that tool. Understanding how Archicad understands architects better than anything else I've seen. If someone wants to leave Archicad, I would say just make sure that you are doing the right thing, because there will be consequence. How do you see Archicad's ecosystem can be used in practice to mentor, upskill, and excite young architectural professionals that join the industry and need to grow to their full potential?
I would start, with 2D drawings and then model, and show them the difference of the 2D and the modeling. I would use the zone tools and then show them the BIMx capabilities. So that would be, and then one more, the scheduling part. That would be in regards to the tool. Now, another one would be teamwork. You can work with, with teams across the world. So there's also this community in the software, and you can do energy calculations in Archicad. Yeah, in a very early stage, gives you a rough overview. You use the zone tools. It's a little tricky, but you have to be precise. But if you do that, you have in 20 minutes energy analysis of your project. Where can you do this?
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas, for this answer. It's much better than I expected. Very complete. All right, great. Thank you, Thomas.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Beijos.
If you like these interviews, make sure to comment below so we know that that's a format you're interested in and we can bring more guests to our conversations, especially members of the Graphisoft community. So if you have a member in the community that you're friends with or you look up to, make sure to comment below so we reach out to these people and bring them in to participate as well.